So if you're selling final expense face-to-face, you're going to want to watch this video. I'm going to be discussing my top 10 final expense face-to-face carriers to specialize in, so stick around. Greetings and salutations, it's David Duford here at Duford Insurance Group, where I train and recruit agents nationally to sell things like final expense and Medicare face-to-face and over the phone. Please make sure you subscribe and like this video. That helps my stuff get in front of more agents who desperately need good training. You know, there's not enough of it out there that's good enough. So help me help them by thumbing this video up and certainly subscribing. So let's talk about the top 10 final expense face-to-face carriers. I'm putting this video together to help you kind of be aware of what I think some of the better carriers are to work with. I'm going to briefly, since there's a lot of carriers here I'm going to talk about, I'm briefly describe why I like these carriers. These aren't in any kind of particular order. I'm going to focus more on the underwriting and pricing side of things, just to kind of give you a reason why to consider picking up a carrier, because for many of you, you already got carriers and you need or considering to add more. So many of the choices in adding carriers come down to pricing and underwriting. So I'm going to stick pretty much briefly discussing what those advantages are. So let's get started. All right, so I'm going to start with a company you may have not have heard of, which is called LifeShield. LifeShield is a price buster carrier. The underwriting, while it's a little tight, for example, it doesn't take any insulin or diabetic neuropathy, it doesn't take cancer. It is a great carrier in some face-to-face situations to price bust other carriers and get a low price. In other words, as a price buster, this is a low price leader. If you go run quotes on a collection of different common final expense carriers, you'll commonly see that LifeShield is amongst the lowest options, usually in slot 1, 2, or 3. So I like using LifeShield. I recommend agents use LifeShield because if they're in situations where they're replacing and the client qualifies, you can get them a low price. And the likelihood is very high that if a client lives by the sword, they die by the sword. If they replace with you, they may consider replacing with another agent that comes by. So you might as well lock them into a low price if you can, so they can't ever replace again. So get LifeShield if you need a price buster. I really like using them. I got agents that use them all over, so it comes highly recommended. Next on the list here is Standard Life and Casualty. Like LifeShield, this is a price buster carrier, but with a bit easier underwriting. For example, Standard Life and Casualty will take insulin after 50. They will take diabetics who have diabetic neuropathy, as first day full coverage, which is incredible. Very few carriers actually accept that first day full coverage anymore. And they'll also have a 2-year look back on cancer and heart issues. And when you look at pricing for smokers and non-smokers, for male and females alike, Standard Life and Casualty is commonly the lowest price carrier, close to the lowest price carrier. Again, like LifeShield, I like using them as a price buster. They're not in a lot of states, but they're very worth considering. So if you need a price buster, you have the states available, you're in the states that the carrier's available, definitely consider them. I like them a lot. I used to write them all the time face-to-face. Their underwriting's never really changed, very consistent. And in most cases, they do give an instant decision. There are some times where they get a referral to underwriting, but they're very good carrier overall to use, especially with the price busting kind of situation. Number 3 on the list is Liberty Bankers Life. Now, where I stand on Liberty Bankers Life is that they're predominantly now, for me and face-to-face, a niche-based carrier. And I would only consider writing Liberty Bankers Life for standard or preferred pricing for people who are under 40 years old. The nice thing about Liberty Bankers Life is their application is the same between 18 and 80 years old. So you're able to write a policy who may be somebody who's younger that has existing health issues. Liberty Bankers Life is going to be an excellent choice to consider when you're in those niche-based situations. They're not a favorite for me now as a primary carrier. I do have some questions or concerns when it comes to some of their underwriting standards and issuing business as it looks on the paper differently. I've had a lot of complaints from agents. I hope Liberty Bankers change this. Maybe they will into the future. But for right now, they're excellent when it comes to those niche-based carrier situations for people who are a bit younger on the final expense scheme of things. Definitely under 40, even potentially between 40 and 50 years old. Number 4 on the list here is Foresters, and Foresters has created a great product for the face-to-face agent where you have to write a paper app, so it's kind of a little pain to use on an ease of issue basis because you might have some amendments that you have to get signed, you miss some signatures, etc. But the product is excellent because it has great underwriting. For example, you can get COPD first day full coverage. Any heart issues within the last year to 2 years get standard first day full coverage. Same thing with lupus and some kidney issues and some liver issues. So it's a great niche-based carrier, and it's also great pricing for the preferred base too as well. So I like Foresters a lot. It's a common carrier I recommend in my lineup to deal with the niches, like the ones that aforementioned, as well as getting very competitive pricing as well for certain cases on some of our clients. Number 5 is American General. It is one of the few guaranteed issue carriers that are available for final expense broker-oriented agents. American General, the main reason I like them is they've got a great and convenient e-app. Of course, it's guaranteed issue, so there's no health questions asked. And its questions, or its pricing, I should say, is pretty competitive. It's more competitive than the other option I'm going to mention here in a minute. And it's a great carrier to lead with because most people know who American General or AIG is, so there's a little brand recognition. And if you want a good price carrier for your guaranteed issue situations, AIG does a great job. Number 6 on the list here is Great Western Life Insurance. Great Western is another carrier we can use face-to-face. I like Great Western because it has an electronic application where the client does not have to digitally sign. It has great protection for the agent as far as deaths due to within the first 2 years. For example, if your client dies 9 months into their plan on an effective basis, then you are free from any kind of chargeback risks due to death. Also, Great Western offers coverage between $1,000 and $40,000 and coverage between $40,000 and $80,000, so it's a bit earlier starting with guaranteed issue. And they make a great complement to AIG. Some agents ask which one's better, Great Western or AIG. I'm generally split down the middle. Just pick up both and kind of keep both handy when you need them. Personally, as an agent, I wrote more of Great Western than any guaranteed issue carrier just because of the chargeback protection. And it was just really easy to write and easy to use. Number 7 on the list here is Guaranteed Trust Life, a new player in the final expense business. The unique thing about GTL is that it offers 50% death benefits starting in the second year, and pricing is more competitive than both Great Western and AIG. And incidentally, what happens is where GTL thrives is that it takes the cases you otherwise would have sent to a guaranteed issue carrier and offers them better quality of coverage. For example, you can get people who have congestive heart failure with GTL. You can get people who had heart attacks or heart issues or oxygen use that's not 24/7 or cancer issues in the past year with GTL. On top of that, there's no MIB or script check. So as long as the client honestly answers everything no, then they're approved for coverage. There's no additional medical underwriting done. GTL is a critical carrier to use because many times we don't want to get our clients a 2-year wait if we can help it, right? If we can get them more coverage faster, then it's a better deal. And GTL with its pricing is priced just right. It's an easy e-app process to use. It's very simple, a 2 to 3 minute phone interview. Absolutely pick up GTL if you have, and it's going to benefit your clients tremendously. Number 8 on the list is Aetna, or the CVS Health product, or Ascendo. Apparently there's like 5 different names, so you probably have seen one of those. This is a great product that's newer on the final expense market. It's nice because like Foresters, it'll get some conditions like COPD, some neurological issues, first day full coverage on a standard price basis. It's also good for people with mental health disorders. And the e-app process is very simple. The client just gives you a keyword and then you submit it for an instant decision. It's very easy to use. Downside of using Aetna is that about 1 out of 2 to 1 out of 3 apps submitted don't get an instant decision. So you're not always going to be in a position with Aetna to get an immediate decision and then completely close the sale. So for that reason, I'm not a big proponent with Aetna on a face-to-face basis unless there are situations where the people are completely clean and you know you can get them approved, or if there's no other options available to you. That's when I kind of recommend Aetna. Otherwise, if they can clean that part of it up and get most of the care or most of the submissions issued, doesn't have to be all of them, but most of them, I would absolutely use Aetna on a more common basis because it's brand name appeal, great pricing, flexibility in underwriting, 40 to 89 years old. It's a great overall product. Number 9 on the list here is Trinity Life Family Benefit. This is one of my favorite all-time carriers. It's a smaller company based out of Oklahoma and Tulsa, but it's got the right combination of competitive pricing and flexible underwriting to use as a primary carrier. For example, there's a 2-year look back on heart issues, a 2-year look back on cancer issues. Insulin after 40 is acceptable, and even diabetic neuropathy is acceptable as well. Prices, if you're familiar with companies like Mutual of Omaha, Trinity Family Benefit, same company by the way, depends on the state you're in, have better pricing or similar pricing than Mutual of Omaha. So when you write Trinity Family Benefit, you're going to find that your pricing is very competitive and rarely gets replaced. So if you're in one of the states that this company is in, you should highly consider picking them up. They're very easy to use. They have a complete verbal authorization application process that will give an instant decision. Or if you're a dinosaur and you're not with the times technologically, man, then you can still write a paper app and then do a phone interview to get a decision. Last but not least is Prosperity Life Insurance Company, a favorite company of mine just because it's an all-around easy-to-use carrier with good competitive underwriting and good competitive pricing. The e-app process for face-to-face agents elicits an instant decision when you submit it. It has a 2-year look back on heart issues, a 3-year look back on cancer issues. The smoker rates only apply to cigarette smokers. If you smoke anything else, including cannabis, you get a non-smoker rate. So there's a healthy niche there. And then also there's from 50 to 80 years old, there's no commission cuts. There's a 10% bonus if you can pay $20,000 every quarter. Of course, that may be subject to change depending on when you watch this, but it's a way to get more money from them. And it's just a very easy carrier to use. It's one of the startup carriers that I like to start with for my new agents starting face-to-face final expense sales. Okay, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this video on the top 10 final expense face-to-face carriers. If you have any questions or comments, you can either reach out above or below with the links or just leave a comment in the chat. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and like this video to help my content show up more frequently. More agents need better training, and I think I'm the guy to deliver it if you don't mind helping me out. My name is David DeFord at DeFord Insurance Group. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.